Hi, I'm Josh from the Flux Capacity, and today we're going to learn how to play Gone Viking, our latest trick-taking style card game with a Viking theme. In this game, you will use the powers of the Viking gods to collect resources in order to become the richest Viking. Before we get into the how to play, let's look at the amazing components that come with Gone Viking. To start, we have a rule book and an order of play card, and then we have several different types of other components. The first thing are the plunder cards. Okay, the plunder cards are cards that are not a Viking god card and that are all represented by a suit, in which case we have books, fists, coins, and hammers. Each suit also has a god that's represented with it. So we've got Odin for books, Loki with fists, Freya with coins, and Thor with hammers. Additionally, we have tokens that are associated with each suit. So we have the unassociated tree tokens, we have the book tokens, the fist tokens, the coin tokens, and the hammer tokens. We also have ship tokens, which I'll explain later on in the video. Finally, we have a card here that represents the Jarl and the Trump indicator card underneath him. So that's the components. Let's get to learn how to play the game. Alright, we've learned about all the components, so now let's learn how to set up the game. We're going to set up today for a 4-player game. So the first thing we got to do is separate all the wealth tokens. So we make some piles here, separate them out, make it easy for everyone to access. The next thing we're going to do is prepare the deck. So easy enough, we've made it so that all you have to do is take out the cards that have the number here for the amount of players you're not playing with. So in this case, this card says 5, so it will only be used in a 5-player game. Here there's a card here that says 4+, that would be included for a 4-player game or a 5-player game. Once the deck is prepared, you can deal out 8 cards to every player, and that's what you would get in a 4-player game. Simply place the deck to the side because we're going to need that in the next step, and every player is going to get 2 tree tokens to start. Finally, we're going to have to pick who the first player is. That player is going to get the Jarl card in front of them, and underneath that the trip indicator or the Trump indicator card. So the books will be the first trump to start the game. So the leader has dealt the cards out to all the players, and now we're going to do what's considered before raiding, which is the first phase on every round when you're playing Gone Viking. Before we go raiding, every player has the option to trade in a few cards if they like, and they do that at the cost of 1 token of any type that they've accumulated for 2 cards. They can do that as many times as they like, as long as they can afford it. Now, every subsequent round, there's always going to be a leader, and the leader has the option to do free card swapping, and that just means that they can trade up to 4 cards that round for no cost at all. The second phase in a round in Gone Viking is the going raiding, and that is essentially the trick-taking part of the card game. So let's review for a second what that means. Leader is always going to play a card, and everybody has to follow suit if they can. So in this case, the leader has played the 1 of fists. So player 2 might play the 3 of fists. Player 3 might play the 4 of fists. And player 4 might play the 7 of fists. Traditionally, in a trick-taking card game, the player who plays the highest card at the end or at any point during the trick wins that trick. In this case, though, perhaps player 4 could not match the suit, could not follow the suit, which is fists, and maybe they decide to play the 3 of books. Now, because books is the trump suit, even though these players played fists, this is the trump card, and this will win the trick. Now, one thing about trick-taking in Gone Viking is that whatever card you take the trick with is what type of plunder token you earn. So in this case, they would earn a book token. But if they had played the 7, they would earn a fist token. So this keeps happening, and whoever wins the trick leads the next trick, and this continues until all the cards are gone for that round. So while we're talking about the trick-taking element of the game and going raiding, let's take a look at one of the unique aspects of Gone Viking. We call this boosting. So let's say the 2 of fists was led, and the 7 of fists was played, and the 5 of fists was also played, so everybody has followed suit. Now, player 4, let's say they have a 6 of fists in their hand. If they were to play this card, the 7 of fists would still win. However, this player has a 6 of fists and a 2 of fists. So what they can do is they can boost these cards by playing them together for a total of 8 fists, and now they have won the trick instead of the 7 of fists, in which case they would take 1 fist token. Okay, remember back when I was talking about the components, I mentioned that there were God cards. Now those God cards have been shuffled into the deck and have been come out and can be in players' hands. So I'm going to show you how they're played in this game. Now, you see here the 2 of books was led and the 3 of books was played to follow suit. In my hand, I have the 12 of books, which is Odin, and the 3 of books. I can simply play Odin as a 12 if I like, and that is just a normal card. Or I can play him face down, which means he's going to come out as a god, and then I would just play another book or another card from my hand, following the same rules of following suit if I can. And then this player might play a 4 of books, in which case they would win the trick. But at the end of this, once all the cards are cleaned off the table, then Odin would be flipped over, and he would now be the god in play until the next god comes into play. And when he's in play, his raid power will come into play. So he immediately gets to call trump, and he forces everybody to not be allowed to use that boosting power, which I spoke about in the last section. The third phase in a round in Gone Viking takes place after all of the tricks have been won, all of the plunder tokens have been gathered for that round, and now there's no cards left. So we always do the same 4 actions in the same order when we return home. First, we resolve the last god's power. So in this case, we're using Loki as an example. He's the last god standing. And we look on the right side of the card and it says his home power. So his home power, in this case, he gets to gain 1 item or steal 1 item. So he could gain 1 from the bank, essentially, or he could take 1 from his friend here. So let's do that. Okay, so that takes care of this god's power. The next thing we could do is we can see if anyone's allowed to build a ship. So in order to build a ship, you have to have 1 of every type of plunder token, and this doesn't include trees. So we look around, and I'm the only one here that has enough to build a ship because I've got 1 of each. So I can cash those 4 tokens in, and I can grab 1 ship token, which, as you can see from the picture here, has a value of 4, so it still represents 4 plunder tokens. Finally, the Jarl, this card here, goes around and looks for the richest player. And in this case, this person has 7, this person has 3, and 4, and 4, so we're the richest player here. Okay, so the Jarl card is going to stay here with me. Now, the Jarl takes always half of your unprotected wealth. So what happens here is that I have 7 total, okay, but I would lose only half of the unprotected stuff because everything that was in this ship is now protected. So I have 3 tokens. I would lose 2 because he's so nasty, we make sure we round up. So that's the problem of having this Jarl come after you, is you lose your tokens at the end of the round. The benefit of having him come after you is now you get to be the leader in the next round, which means again you get to do that 4-card swap for free. After the Jarl does his sort of stealing from the richest player, then we look for a leader, which is the 4th phase when you return home. So in this case, we are looking to have 8 tokens if we're in a 4-player game, and nobody has 8 tokens, so we would simply start another round. Alright, let's take a quick look here at the gods. They have interesting effects, so let's go through them one by one and talk about what they do. So when Loki is the god in play during a raid, He has a raid power, and the raid powers are always listed on the left. He is a trickster and switches everything up so that the weakest card wins the trick. If he's the last god standing, his home power, which is listed always on the right, bottom right of the card here, is that player gets to gain 1 plunder token from the supply or steal 1 plunder token from another player. The next god we'll talk about is Freya. So if Freya is in play during a raid, she gets to change the trump. So that player would choose a new trump suit, and every time someone wins a trick, they're also going to take 1 coin from the supply. So when Freya is in effect, people can get very rich during that round. If she's the last god standing at the end of the round when everybody returns home, all the other players, except for the player who's got the Freya in front of them, will lose 1 item back to the supply. The next god we're going to look at is Thor. So Thor, who is the god of the hammer suit, when he's in effect during a raid, there will be no trump. So he removes trump completely from the game. And following suit then is optional. So it's really just about who plays the highest card when Thor is in effect. When they return home, the player who has Thor in front of them can use any 4 tokens to build a ship. Instead of the normal having to have 1 of each type, this player could choose to trade 4 hammers for a ship if they like, or 2 hammers and 2 fists. It's completely up to them. The final god in the game is Odin. Odin is the god of the book suit, and his power during raids is to call trump. So if there is no trump, or if there is trump and the player wants to change it, they can call trump to change it to whatever they want. As well, it makes it so no boosting can happen. No player can use boosting during those turns while Odin is in effect. As well, when they return home, that player who has Odin in front of them gets to gain 2 items of their choice from the supply. So thank you for taking the time today to learn how to play Gone Viking. I hope you've enjoyed the video. There are a few more details in the rulebook about how to break ties and things, so take a look at that before you get playing. Also, if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them at any time at info@thefluxcapacity.com. Have a great day.